Guyana, the region, the News Talk Radio Newsroom, and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
Good day with your major newscast. I am Jessica Daw. First with the highlights. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says the highly contagious Omicron variant of COVID is believed to be in Guyana. The local government council in Charity Essequibo Coast is moving to stamp out street vending. In the region, there has been failed attempt to assassinate the Prime Minister of Haiti. In Suriname, several rifles that were believed to have been stolen from the private armory of former President Bouterse have been found. The 5 prominent members of the UN Security Council have issued a rare joint statement pledging to prevent the spread of atomic weapons and ensuring a nuclear war is never fought. The details of these stories and more in just a moment.
Advertise with us on News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM for best coverage on programs on motivation, beauty and health, parenting and relationships, knowing your rights, and a variety of enlightening content, and get value for your money. Call our helpful staff today on 223-1056 or 223-1041 today.
Now for the news in detail. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says the highly contagious Omicron variant of COVID is believed to be in Guyana.
Omicron variant that is in circulation in Guyana, because based on these numbers, we know that in other countries with Omicron it's highly contagious, so the numbers would keep multiplying every 2 to 4 days. You will have an increase in these numbers. And so with the way that this has rapidly progressed over the last couple of days, we suspect from an epidemiological point of view that we might have Omicron that is in circulation here.
The health minister is highly recommending that Guyanese wear the N95 mask consistently and properly. Scientists believe that Omicron mostly affects the throat rather than the lungs, which are affected mostly by the Delta variant. The Charity Neighborhood Council is moving to stamp out street vending. Acting overseer for the council, Ramiz Bashk, says the plan is to create a semi-mall where vendors will be able to sell their items in an orderly and secure environment. He says eventually a concrete fence will be constructed around the tarmac and lights will be installed. The Charity Neighborhood Council overseer says that plans have also been made to extend the shed to cover the other half of the tarmac and include an entrance and exit. Bashk added that these works are also aimed at providing some security for vendors and their goods since there have been cases of burglary. The Guyana Defense Forces GDF Engineering Corps is continuing to perform infrastructural works across the country. Government's Department of Public Information says the GDF is building the steel frame shed for the vendors' tarmac at the Charity Market in Region 2. This will allow vendors to ply their trade there to operate within a safe environment. In 2021, the government spent $30 million to rehabilitate the market's tarmac. The union that's representing some workers at the Guyana Power and Light GPL has asked the Ministry of Labor to intervene in a pay dispute. In a letter dated December 23, the General Secretary of the National Association of Agricultural and Commercial and Industrial Employees, NACI, Karen Mapp, asked the Chief Labor Officer of the Ministry of Labor, Daneshwar Dionarayan, for conciliation. Ms. Mapp asked Mr. Diona Ryan to intervene and have a speedy conciliation process to alleviate any difference between the union and the GPL. Meanwhile, the NACI General Secretary wants the Chief Executive Officer of GPL, Bharat Dindyal, to withdraw his statements that the power company does not have any money to pay increased wages and salaries. The union wants GPL to use the approximately $4 billion from the government to pay the workers. NACI claims that the GPL's CEO has ignored an instruction by the Guyana government to pay the 7% increase. The same has been paid to other categories of government workers. The union further claims that Mr. Dindyal wants to instead pay a 2 to 4% increase. Police are continuing their investigations into Saturday's fire at Georgetown Public Hospital Heart Diagnosis Facility. An echocardiography machine-related equipment have been destroyed. Chief Executive Officer of the Georgetown Public Hospital, Robbie Rambaran, estimates the loss at $25 million. He says smoke quickly spread to the intensive care unit and cardiac intensive care unit where patients were admitted. Mr. Rambaran says 4 patients from ICU and 7 from CICU were evacuated to the recovery room in the main operating theater and the ophthalmology ward. This is the 5th such fire in recent months at government-owned facilities. There have been fires at the Mabaruma Secondary School, North Rheinfeldt Multilateral School, Brigdam Police Station, including a division headquarters, and the building housing the Director of Public Prosecutions Chambers and the Office of Professional Responsibility. President Irfaan Ali says the government and the private sector will be tackling the steadily rising cost of living. In his New Year's message, he says that due to COVID-19, the international cost of shipping has increased from $2,000 at the beginning of 2021 to $20,000 by the end of 2021. He says this is disturbing his government's development plans, but efforts are underway to work with Guyana's business community to cushion the impact of raising prices.
Tackling this issue requires new and creative measures, which my government has either started to put in place or in the process of implementing. I do not promise that we can solve all aspects of the problem alone. It is a global challenge, but I do pledge this. My government will lose no time in seeking ways to ease the strain on the people of Guyana. In collaboration with the private sector, we will roll out strategies early in the new year to alleviate the problem as best we can.
But leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Aubrey Norton, says that the rising cost of living is due to economic mismanagement.
Guyanese have been asked to brace themselves for harder times in 2022. This is clearly a result of the incompetence of the government. The Guyanese economy is becoming increasingly dependent on oil, notwithstanding all the talk about diversification. Already, oil is accounting for 43% of export earnings. The dreaded Dutch disease is increasingly evident, reflected in high prices for goods and services across all sectors.
Leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Aubrey Norton. He made no mention of the global increase in prices due to COVID-19's impact of a slowdown of the international supply chain. A Venezuelan man who allegedly killed another Venezuelan man at Arau Mountaintop, Cayuni, has been arrested. He was taken to the Bartica police station overnight for investigators to question him about the alleged murder of 51-year-old Animal Sunja of Valencia, Venezuela. The suspect allegedly lashed Sunja to his head with a piece of wood during the pre-dawn hours of January 1. Investigators were informed that Sunja and the suspect, who are known to each other, were arguing over the suspect allegedly owing Sunja some raw gold. At the time of the incident, police say that the suspect and Sunja were at the suspect's sister's camp. The suspect's sister and her husband are also in police custody, assisting with investigations. 2 Essequibo Coast youths have been arrested in connection with the robbery and wounding of a businessman and his wife at Charity Waterfront. Police say that the men, who are 21 and 25 years old, were caught in the backlands between Dartmouth and a New Road after a 5-hour-long search. Police say that they recovered $4.8 million and $1.1 million worth of Digicel and GTT phone cards. According to investigators, after the businessman freed himself, having been tied up, he chased and chopped one of the bandits, and then police and community police cordoned off the Blacklands. The businessman, who was chopped in his head by the other bandit, was rushed to the Charity Hospital, from where he was transferred to the Saudi Hospital, where he was hospitalized in a stable condition, police added. The businessman, who is 55 years old, told police that about 11 o'clock Saturday morning he was about to open his business place when the 2 suspects, who were armed with cutlass and knife, pushed the door and entered. He further recalled that one with the knife held him up and placed the knife to his throat, while the other suspect attacked the victim's 57-year-old wife. Police were informed that the bandits covered her mouth, after which they taped both of their hands and feet with duct tape. The men then reportedly ransacked the premises and carted off the cash and phone cards. Now for the news in the region. A failed attempt to assassinate the Prime Minister of Haiti, Ariel Henry, took place on Sunday at a church in the city of Gonaive. The VTV broadcaster reported that gunmen opened fire during a mass dedicated to the 218th anniversary of the country's independence. According to the report, armed people opened fire at the Prime Minister. At least one person was killed and several others wounded. Henry was not injured. Local gangs had warned the Prime Minister against attending any events in Gonaive. Following the failed assassination attempt, the authorities cancelled all other events dedicated to the anniversary of independence. Last July, President Jovenel Moïse was gunned down in his house by several mercenaries believed to be Colombians with links to the Haitian community in the United States. In Suriname, at least 5 AK-47 assault rifles believed to be among those stolen from the armory of the private residence of former President Desi Bouterse have been found. Star News reports that authorities have not made any formal statements about the rifles. It is not clear who placed the weapons in a location where they could be easily discovered. Star News says these weapons are part of the depot of the National Armory, which were at the home of ex-President Bouterse. Bouterse had announced at a press conference that the underworld has organized itself and is prepared to return the stolen weapons. Several people are still in custody in connection with the theft of weapons. They have repeatedly denied their involvement. The case is due to resume on January 20. Official records show that 25 AK-47 rifles are among the weapons that have been stolen. A former Colombian soldier implicated in the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse last year will be deported from Jamaica to his homeland on January 3. This was announced by the Attorney General of Jamaica on Saturday. 43-year-old Mario Antonio Palacio is accused by the Haitian authorities of being part of a group of mercenaries that killed Moïse in July during an attack on his private home. His wife was also injured. Palacio was arrested in Jamaica in October and convicted of illegally entering the country from the Dominican Republic. The government of Jamaica had issued a deportation order for illegal entry into the country. Police say that Jamaica has no formal extradition treaty with Haiti, where Palacio is wanted. Jamaican police say that the information provided did not link him to the murder and essentially indicated that he was a suspect in an attempted armed robbery without any detail. Police say that efforts to get more and better data from the Haitian government have not been successful. Palacio's lawyers have asked for his immediate release from a remand center, arguing his detention is unlawful. Palacio's lawyers and Haitian government officials have not yet officially commented on the matter. COVID-positive Barbadians in isolation will not be allowed to vote. Barbadians are due to vote for a government of their choice on January 19. Head of the COVID-19 monitoring unit, Ronald Chapman, says persons at any of Barbados' isolation facilities will not be able to vote, as those facilities are considered extensions of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Asked specifically if he said isolated COVID-positive persons would not be able to vote, he said,
"That is quite correct. If you're positive, you stay at home. Don't you looking surprised. If you are ill in the hospital, you stay in the hospital. We're asking Barbadians, please, if you know you are ill, if you know you are infectious, please do not come out and share that infection with others."
Nomination day is today. However, Electoral and Boundaries Commission member Sir Hall Gallup says legal advice should be sought.
I think it goes much further than just passing off a definitive statement that it cannot be done because of this and because of that. I believe that is certainly outside Mr. Chapman's competence, because it has an impact on law. And I think it would be wiser to have an opinion on this, so that the position of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission can be based on a solid legal opinion rather than that of Mr. Chapman.
Electoral and Boundaries Commission member Sir Hall Gallup. In Trinidad and Tobago, discussions are intensifying about the possibility of Carnival 2022. Newsday reports that the country's Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts, Randall Mitchell, is expected to present a proposal to the Ministry of Health to consider a carnival-like celebration. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has already ruled out street parades, unvaccinated gatherings, and wild public parties. He has, however, said that there is room for a safe zone venues for smaller versions of the usual large events. The Tourism, Culture and the Arts Minister says that after the proposal has been submitted to the Health Ministry, the Prime Minister will make a decision. The proposal will be submitted by the end of the week. Trinidad and Tobago ended 2021 with December recording the highest number of infections in the month, to 20,538, and deaths 711. The country also has 12 cases of the Omicron variant, although Delta remains the dominant strain. And lastly, in the region, the British Virgin Islands Labour and Immigration Minister Vincent Wheatley has insisted that he is not against immigrants going to work in BVI. At the same time, he says he is simply trying to ensure that locals have a fighting chance in the territory's labour force. Minister Wheatley says he is aware that BVI won't always find all of its labour pool from among its local population. He says that officials have to do everything they can to make sure that all locals are employed. According to the minister, there has been an uproar in the marine industry, but the minister again counters, saying they are local boat captains that are sitting down and not working. The BVI Labour Minister says even though there are problems with the Labour Department, it continues to work through its challenges. The minister says he has condemned all the companies that have taken the initiative to continue to hire local staff and to give them opportunities and chances. He says persons have given him stories about locals not wanting to work and not showing up for work after being paid. However, the minister urged employers not to dismiss them. And here now is your international news coming from the BBC.
Hello, this is Julie Candler with the BBC News. The 5 permanent UN Security Council members have issued a rare joint statement pledging to prevent the spread of atomic weapons and ensure a nuclear war is never fought. China, France, Russia, the UK and the United States will be part of a major review of a key international nuclear treaty later this year. Steve Jackson reports.
The 5 permanent members of the Security Council are themselves all nuclear powers and are at the centre of some major political tensions. The United States sees both Russia and China as a growing threat. So this joint statement on nuclear conflict is both unusual and likely to be widely welcomed. In it, the 5 powers agree that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Russia said it hoped the statement would reduce international tensions. China said it would increase mutual trust and create a balanced relationship between the major powers.
Annual inflation in Turkey has surged to its highest level in 2 decades. The figure for December was 36%. It's the latest sign of the extent of Turkey's economic turmoil, widely blamed on President Erdogan's policies. Here's Victoria Craig.
Over the past year, the biggest increases in consumer prices came in categories essential to everyday life. Transportation prices surged by more than half, while the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages and household equipment weren't far behind. Turkey's inflation problem isn't new, and the way it tries to fight it isn't conventional. Normally, central banks would raise interest rates to cool fast-rising prices. But last month, Turkey's central bank slashed rates for the 4th straight month. The nation's president has described interest rates as the mother and father of all evil and has used more unorthodox policy to try to tamp down inflation, including intervening in foreign exchange markets.
The Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, has been admitted to a hospital in Sao Paulo where he's receiving treatment for an abdominal problem. He was hospitalized in July, also with an intestinal obstruction, but was able to recover without surgery. Camilla Mota reports.
Mr. Bolsonaro cut short his holiday in the southern state of Santa Catarina after feeling unwell. He was taken by presidential plane to a private hospital in São Paulo in the early hours of the morning and is waiting for his doctors to decide whether he needs surgery. The medical staff said he's stable and undergoing treatment. The president has faced several health problems since he was stabbed during the election campaign in 2018. He's had abdominal surgery at least 4 times since then.
More than 4 million teenagers in India have received a coronavirus vaccine on the first day they became eligible for the jab. India has recorded its steepest ever weekly surge in COVID infections fueled by the Omicron variant. Cases almost tripled in the week ending on Sunday. World News from the BBC. More than a dozen people have been arrested in Cambodia during a strike at the country's biggest casino. For more than 2 weeks, workers and former employees have been protesting outside Nagaworld's hotel and gambling complex in Phnom Penh. They say laid-off employees were not given proper severance pay. The company says the strike is illegal. Nagaworld is the only casino allowed within a 200-kilometre radius of the Cambodian capital. Legislators in Hong Kong have taken their oath of office for the local assembly that's now been stripped of pro-democracy voices. 90 members, all approved by Beijing, took part in a ceremony that emphasised China's increased control over the territory. At the last oath-taking event 5 years ago, several pro-democracy legislators staged protests while pledging their allegiance, prompting the tightening of rules over oaths. Members of the South African Parliament have been giving details of the massive fire that severely damaged the Houses of Parliament in Cape Town on Sunday. A man has been arrested and will appear in court on Tuesday, facing charges of arson, housebreaking and theft. Firefighters worked for hours to extinguish the blaze. The Minister of Public Works, Patricia de Lille, said there had been a delay in discovering that someone had entered the complex.
There was no monitoring of the CCTV cameras on that fateful night. And the monitoring of the CCTV cameras in terms of parliamentary security and the police has been done by the police. And that is why the police were able to alert the fire department when they arrived.
The websites of 2 of Portugal's main media outlets have been taken down by hackers. It's believed to be one of the largest cyber security attacks in the country's history. There's been a ransom demand by the hackers, who said internal data would be leaked unless a ransom was paid. BBC News.
And that was your international news. Here now is a recap of the highlights. The highly contagious Omicron variant of the coronavirus may be in Guyana. The local government council in Charity Essequibo Coast is moving to stamp out street vending. In the region, there has been failed attempt to assassinate the Prime Minister of Haiti. In Suriname, several rifles that were believed to have been stolen from the private armory of former President Dessie Bouterse have been found. And internationally, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council have issued a rare joint statement pledging to prevent the spread of atomic weapons and ensuring a nuclear war is never fought. And that was your major newscast. I am Jessica Daw.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/